Alright, people, what go on? Big up on yourself, welcome back to the channel. This is Coach's Desk Unlocked, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. So, I want to talk a little bit about Kishane Thompson. And, you know, people have been saying that he's having trouble in the latter part of his race. For me, I think it's more so pressure in that phase rather than him having speed endurance issue. All right, let us look at it this way. He has been racing with Oblique for quite some time, and we have seen where Oblique has been decimating him, defeating him in several races. Now, Kishane would have went back to the lab, worked on his craft, because obviously Kishane had some injury concerns with his shin, whereas that wouldn't have allowed him to work out as frequently and as often as he would like. He seems to have gotten over that. That's a good look. And he went to the lab and did his work, and he started to defeat Oblique Seville. Now, I've heard persons talking about Oblique Seville's speed endurance, which I believe it is good. The fact is that Oblique has the speed endurance, but yet still, for the past few seasons, he has been losing to Kishane. And how come a man that has better speed endurance, according to the fan base, according to persons, he's beating that man with better speed endurance? All right. So, Kishane has a faster time than Oblique Seville. For a man that is struggling with speed endurance, then that is incredible. You get what I'm saying? My thing is not to compare Oblique and Kishane, but I have to in this explanation, right? Because people often tend to believe that Kishane has speed endurance issue, which I don't believe. Here's how I look at it. When Kishane runs with athletes that are of a great ilk, and more than one of them are in the race, he tends to lose his form and his shape in the latter part of his race. All Kishane has to do is to maintain his form for him to go through the line. I think he is tightening up because of the pressure rather than his speed endurance. Now, the person who I believe has a greater speed endurance is Noah Lyles. Why is that so? Because when everybody reach top speed, they have to maintain it between 40 to 60 meters, right? They have to maintain top speed. So you can't run any faster after you reach 60 meters. Don't let people fool you. When you see athletes surging through like a Noah Lyles, it is as a result of him being able to maintain top speed greater than these other athletes. That's why there's a surge. So what happens to the other athlete is that they tend to decelerate quicker than Noah Lyles. So that top end speed that we call, it is actually his decelerating rate. He decelerates at a slower rate than his opponents, than the other athletes. However, if these other athletes like a Kishane and a Oblique is able to maintain their speed and their form, Noah Lyles shouldn't catch them because they are great at acceleration. From 0 to 40, 0 to 60, greater than Noah Lyles. All they need to do is to maintain their speed and they'll be good to go. Now, I see comparison has been made with the 987 that Kishane ran and the 987 that Oblique ran. They are saying that Noah didn't close the gap. And they're saying that Noah closed the gap on Kishane. All right, fine. It is evident that way. But when you look at the series of the race analysis, to me, Oblique and Noah's race, not Oblique and Kishane's race is similar in terms of maintenance of their speed in the latter part of the race. If you don't believe me, go and look at the race analysis on the Diamond League. Just go look at it. I don't want to tell you again, just look at it. So in my estimation, each of these athletes are strong at various phases of the race. Kishane has the greater acceleration. He's not one of the best in terms of form. Hence, he looked a little bit rugged and, in the latter part because he is not, relaxed enough to maintain that speed, especially when pressure is upon him. All right? Oblique is more fluent in terms of his sprinting, so he's able to maintain, right? But yet still he's not running faster than Kishane. This Tokyo Olympic World Championship might be a little bit different. Not bashing anyone, not beating on anyone. All right? If you look at all three of them, Oblique to me is the cleaner sprinter technically. Noah Lyles, not such a good starter. His acceleration is not that good. But when he reaches his top speed at 60, he's able to maintain it. And Noah is not one of those technical sprinter either, no, but you see that latter part, because of his knee lift, he's maximizing and he's hitting that ground as hard as possible. And that hip seems to be very strong. He's able to maintain that speed greater. So you're not seeing Noah, thigh at an acute angle. You're seeing it at 90 degrees or parallel to the ground. So these are some of the things I look at. So I will never say that Kishane is struggling with speed endurance. I believe Kishane has an issue where he is crumbling under pressure. Crumbling under pressure rather than having an issue with speed endurance. Now, the video that was shown where he's actually working mid-race, I mean, all athletes do certain different phases of races. All athletes probably work on the latter part of the races too. So that is not nothing new. I mean, they probably put the video out, to get feedback. Or in that case, they just choose that spot of the field or the track to work on. So I don't know. But I don't think he's struggling with speed endurance. Remember, speed endurance you'd have worked on. There's a phase of the workout that is called special endurance that you do to get speed endurance, right? And if Kishane was not doing those numbers great, he would not be running as fast as he is running. It is as simple as that. Yeah? So when he goes through that special endurance phase, he is actually putting in the work. He's actually putting up the numbers on the clock. Because if he wasn't putting up those numbers, again, I'll repeat, he would not be running the way that he is running. But sometimes persons view it differently. But if you hear from a Stephen Francis, a Paul Francis, a Maurice Wilson, a Glenn Mills, then you realize that Kishane is not really struggling with any sort of speed endurance issue. Persons would love for him to run more 100 meters or run more 200 meters. Yes, but there are many different ways to improve on your speed endurance. And over the years, when you look at Stephen Francis, athlete, only a few he has initiated in the earlier part of their career to do the double. So we're not ruling out that from a Kishane Thompson standpoint, depending on how he actually his body hold up, because he didn't do it early in the earlier year with Shelley. He didn't do it with Elaine. Elaine was like a one event person. Started out with the 200 nonetheless. So of course, her top end would have been there. And would you say that it is because of the 200 that she has gathered that top end for the 100? You could very well say it, or you could very well say it is how she work out in training, because you need to hammer the different aspect of your training regime so that you can develop that speed endurance. It is not only the 200 that gives you that, right? Over the years, Stephen Francis athletes only 100, 100, 100. So I think that is an issue. When the athletes do like the double, then you see where they, look a little bit different from the ones who just do the 100. So, I mean, you can't really take that out of the equation, but there are many ways to get that speed endurance in by, not only doing the 200. And that is my take on it. For me, though, I love when an athlete can do the double. That is me personally as a coach. All right. But every coach's philosophy is different. We know that Tina can do the 1-2 double, but I think Steven's program is so much that he prepare the athlete to take on one event based off their development. I think that's how he programs his thing. But is it working? Has it worked? We see where Shelley Ilian have won multiple titles under him. So it has worked for him. Will he change? We don't know. Has he improved on things that he was doing? I certainly believe that. Sherika Jackson is there too. So I don't know. But for me, I believe Kishane doesn't struggle with speed endurance. That is it. That is my say.